Welcome back to Wisdom Unveiled. I can't believe we're already on deep dive number 40.
40.
Into Marifat, these incredible conversations with Iranian philosophers.
Right.
About Saadi of Shiraz. As always, a quick reminder, what you're hearing is a translation.
Yeah.
So please forgive us if some of the finer points.
Some of the nuances get lost.
Get lost.
In the translation.
Exactly.
We're doing our best to convey the heart of these discussions.
Now, today we're diving into a concept that's central to Saadi's work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you'll find it surprisingly relevant to your own life. The idea of Naz and Nayaz.
Two terms that might sound a little unfamiliar, but
Foreign.
But trust me, they're worth exploring.
I'm ready.
So, because they point to something really fundamental about the way we relate to beauty, to longing, even to something greater than ourselves.
Okay, so I know Naz sometimes translates to coyness. Like, is this like a cosmic game of hard to get?
That's a great question. And, it's important to understand that Naz in this context goes beyond that simple definition. Dr. Dinani talks about it as the display of beauty.
Okay.
The act of revealing something truly wonderful.
I like that.
It's not about ego or showing off, but more like that natural outpouring of something captivating.
So like a flower suddenly bursting into bloom, or the way music can just wash over you.
Exactly.
It's not trying to be beautiful, it just is.
Exactly. And that's where Nayaz comes in. Think of this as pure need, a deep longing, yearning for something more. Dr. Dinani compares it to the way that the roots of a plant seek water. It's that essential drive for growth and connection.
So we have this beautiful tension between Naz, this offering of beauty, and Niyaz, this longing to receive it. But Dr. Larijani points out that this isn't just happening in a garden. This is woven into the very fabric of existence. What does he mean by that?
He is suggesting that everything is part of this interplay, that it's happening on a cosmic scale. So imagine God's creation, all the abundance and beauty in the world. That's Naz.
Okay.
This outpouring of divine generosity and creativity.
With all the breathtaking landscapes, the intricate ecosystems, just the sheer variety of life on Earth.
Right.
That's all a manifestation of Naz.
Absolutely. And, our human longing for meaning, for connection, for something beyond ourselves, that's Naz.
It's that one that the other has no meaning.
Precisely. It's a two-way street, this constant
like
cycle of giving and receiving.
Yeah, this makes me think about those times when I feel completely absorbed in something.
Right.
Like when I'm listening to a piece of music that truly moves me. Or, when I'm working on a project I'm passionate about and time just melts away. But I like getting a glimpse of this dance.
I think that's a really insightful connection. Dr. Larijani calls those states halit and fessi, where we're directly experiencing something eternal, that sense of awe and wonder. And he says that it's fueled by niyaz. The stronger our longing,
the more open we become to experiencing that infinite beauty.
It's not just a passive yearning. It's actually like driving forward.
It's a driving force.
It is us towards
Absolutely. It propels us forward.
Transcendent experiences. And this is where it gets really fascinating, especially when we connect it back to Saadi's poetry, or really any form of art. So how does this relate to Saadi? Is he expressing Naz in his writing, or is he trying to evoke Naz in the reader?
That's a great question, and it goes to the heart of what Dr. Dinani believes about the power of language. He has this very provocative idea that speech, the very act of using words, is actually the highest form of art.
Hold on. Even higher than painting or music. Why would he say that?
He makes this claim because he says that words, when used masterfully, have the potential to convey this vastness of meaning, the depths of the human experience.
Okay.
Think about it. A painting might give you a glimpse of beauty. Music can evoke a feeling.
But well-crafted words can unlock these entire worlds within you.
It's not just about pretty sounds or images. It's about using language. To tap into those deeper truths that resonate on a soul level.
Exactly. And, he even takes it a step further. He asks, why did God choose to communicate through prophets? Through a speech, and not through visions or images?
That's a good question. I've never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder.
He suggests that it's precisely because words have this power to convey the nuances of meaning.
Right.
That intricate dance of nas and miyaz in a way that's uniquely human.
That reframes how I think about language.
Right.
Especially how Saadi uses it.
And, just to be clear, Dr. Larijani is very specific about what he means by nas. He's not talking about this superficial kind of playing hard to get that we might associate with the word.
Okay, good. Because I was thinking wait, is the divine being coy with us? That doesn't sound very loving.
Exactly.
Okay.
True nas is about this authentic, effortless expression of beauty and goodness.
Got it.
It's about the divine revealing itself fully, not holding back or trying to manipulate.
So it's more like a waterfall.
Yes.
Cascading down.
Yes.
Or the sun radiating its light.
Exactly.
It's this unstoppable flow of magnificence.
Yeah.
And our niyaz is what allows us to recognize and receive that beauty.
It's not about neediness or desperation, but that deep longing within us for connection, for meaning, for something that transcends our limitations. It's what drives us to seek out truth and wholeness.
Yeah, and it sounds like that's where those moments of Halet and Fessi come in, like those times when we feel that connection so intensely.
Yes.
It's like we need that inner space, that emptiness to be filled by that beauty and love.
You're right on track. And it's interesting because he even connects this to a verse from the Quran that says, "O mankind, you are the ones who are in need of Allah, while Allah is the rich, the praiseworthy."
Wow.
So even in our human weakness and need, there's this profound truth we're ultimately connected to this source of infinite richness and abundance.
But how does all of this relate specifically to Saadi's poetry?
Right. We were talking about him expressing nas through his work, but I'm still a bit fuzzy on how that plays out.
Yeah, me too.
Well, remember Dr. Dinani's point about speech being the highest form of art? He believes that Saadi, as a master poet, was able to embody this dance of nas and niyaz in his words.
Yeah.
He wasn't just describing it, he was living it through his writing.
So Saadi's poetry itself becomes a form of nas.
Yes.
And then when we read it with an open heart, with niyaz, it awakens something within us.
That's beautifully articulated.
It's like a chain reaction.
Yeah.
Divine nas.
Divine nas.
Sparking our nas.
Absolutely.
Leading us further.
It highlights how interconnected we all are.
Down the path. This is making me think about how I approach reading Saadi or, any kind of challenging work, really, if I'm not open to it, if I'm not actively engaging. It's like trying to fill a closed fist.
Right.
Nothing can enter.
Yeah. That's a fantastic analogy.
Yeah.
So we need to approach these things with an open hand or receptive heart.
Right.
That niyaz, which allows us to receive the wisdom that's being offered.
So it's the difference between reading for information versus reading for transformation.
You've hit on a crucial point.
So it's not just about understanding intellectually, but letting it touch my heart, touch my soul.
Absolutely.
Saadi's giving us a map. But the treasure isn't buried in the ground.
Yeah.
It's buried within ourselves.
Beautifully put. And the tools that we need to uncover it aren't shovels and pickaxes.
No.
But an open heart,
a
curious mind, and that burning niyaz that propels us forward.
Okay, we've explored these beautiful abstract concepts. But I'm curious to hear more about how they play out in Saadi's poetry. Can we dive into some specific examples?
Absolutely. Dr. Larijani brings up this fascinating story from the Quran about the Prophet Solomon.
To illustrate nas and niyaz. Remember when the Queen of Sheba arrived at Solomon's court?
Yes.
With 40 camels laden with gold as a gift?
Talk about making an entrance. That's quite a gesture.
Right. But Dr. Larijani asks, what if at the same time an ant were to offer a single leg of a locust to Solomon?
Interesting.
Which offering would hold more weight?
Well, 40 camels of gold is definitely more impressive in terms of sheer wealth.
True. But he suggests that the ant's offering, while seemingly insignificant, might hold more true value.
Okay.
Because it represents the entirety of the ant's possessions. It's given with pure niyaz, without calculation or expectation of reward.
So it's not about the size or grandeur of the offering, but the sincerity and depth of feeling behind it.
You've got it. That pure expression of need and devotion is where the true beauty lies.
This makes me think about how we approach our relationship with that divine source of nas. It's not about trying to impress or bargain, but coming with an open heart.
With that pure niyaz, that simple yearning for connection.
Exactly.
So it's not about what we do to earn favor.
Right.
It's about who we are in our essence.
Yes.
These beings filled with longing.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like this ties back to that idea of humility we've talked about before.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
Humility is essential for both growth and understanding. He compares it to the fertile soil that allows wisdom to take root.
Okay.
And it's closely connected to nyas.
If we're constantly trying to prove ourselves to inflate our egos, there's no space for that.
There's no space.
Genuine yearning for something greater.
Right. Humility creates that space for nyas, which then opens us up to receive the nas.
And that, in turn, allows us to appreciate the beauty and wisdom in Saadi's poetry.
Yeah.
You know, it resonates with me in those moments where I've felt most connected to something larger than myself. And usually when I've been humbled by nature, moved by art, or just feeling deeply grateful.
That's beautiful.
It always seemed to happen when I let go of my ego and just surrendered to the experience.
What a beautiful observation.
Yeah.
It speaks to the power of letting go, allowing ourselves to be vulnerable and open to what life offers.
So that surrender, that openness, is what allows this dance of nas and nayas to flow through us.
Precisely. You know, in a world that often tells us to be self-sufficient and independent, acknowledging our need and longing can be incredibly liberating.
Yeah, this has been such a mind-expanding conversation, and I feel like we're just scratching the surface of this whole idea of nas and nayas.
I agree. It's a topic that could fill many more episodes. But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, let's ground these ideas a little bit more in Saadi's poetry.
Yes, let's get specific. How does he explore this dance of need and fulfillment in his work?
Well, one of the most common motifs in Persian poetry, and one that Saadi uses beautifully, is the symbolism of the nightingale and the rose.
Oh, right. The nightingale and the rose. I have a sense of what it represents.
Yeah.
But what's that deeper significance in relation to nas and nayas?
Well, think of the nightingale pouring its heart out in song. It often represents the soul, the lover, yearning for union with the divine. And the rose, with its beauty and fragrance, symbolizes the divine itself, the beloved.
So the nightingale song is the expression of nayas.
Exactly.
That longing. And the rose's beauty is the embodiment of nas.
Exactly. And Saadi uses this to convey the soul's yearning for connection, for wholeness, for that ultimate fulfillment.
And even in its pain and its longing, that song is a testament to the power of nayas.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, it's what leads towards fulfillment.
You said it. And I think that's a really important message for all of us, that our longings and yearnings are not something to be ashamed of or suppress.
Right.
They're part of what makes us human, part of what connects us to something greater.
It makes me think about those times when I've been absolutely consumed by something. You know, a creative project, a new idea, even a person.
Right.
Those periods when I just poured all my energy and focus into something almost to the exclusion of everything else.
Exactly. And those experiences, even if they're not explicitly about romantic love, can give us a taste of that same intensity, that all-consuming nayas that the nightingale embodies.
It's like being swept away by something bigger than yourself, losing yourself in the flow of creativity, of inspiration.
You're capturing it perfectly. And while we may not want to live our entire lives in that state of heightened intensity, those moments can be incredibly powerful and transformative. They show us just how deep our capacity for longing, for devotion, for connection truly is.
So it's a glimpse into the potential of nayas, even if it's not always expressed in that traditional romantic way.
You got it. And that's one reason why I think Saadi's work is so powerful. He shows us how nayas can take many forms. It can manifest in countless ways, but it's always rooted in that fundamental human longing for connection, for wholeness, for something that transcends our limited selves.
This is giving me a whole new appreciation for the complexity of nayas. It's not just about romantic love or spiritual yearning. It's about that drive that fuels our passions, our creativity, our search for meaning.
You're absolutely right. It's about finding what truly ignites our souls and then allowing that passion to guide us on our journey.
Instead of suppressing our desires or trying to fit into some mold.
Exactly.
It's about embracing the uniqueness of our own nayas. And letting it lead us toward our own path.
Beautifully said. And that resonates so deeply with Saadi's philosophy. He celebrates the diversity of human experience and encourages us to find our own individual paths to connection and meaning.
It's like he's saying, listen to that inner voice, that nayas that's calling you toward your true purpose. Don't get caught up in trying to conform or follow somebody else's path.
Precisely. We so often fall into the trap of trying to meet external expectations, and we lose touch with that inner compass.
Yeah, but as Saadi is reminding us to trust that inner voice,
yes,
to honor our own niyaz. That's where true fulfillment lies, not in achieving some external measure of success.
Exactly.
But in aligning our lives with our deepest passions or deepest longings.
Beautifully said. And that's a message that feels so relevant today when we're constantly bombarded with these messages about what we should be doing, what we should be striving for. Saadi is reminding us that true wealth lies within, and that the journey of self-discovery is the most rewarding adventure of all.
And it's a journey that's fueled by that niyaz.
Absolutely.
That yearning for connection, for meaning.
But what happens when we're feeling lost or disconnected?
Yeah, that's a good question.
When it feels like we've lost touch with that spark.
Yeah, because life isn't always sunshine and roses, you know.
Right.
Sometimes those longings feel more like a burden than like a guiding light. What do our experts suggest for navigating those times?
Dr. Larijani offers a beautiful analogy. He compares the human heart to a mirror that's become covered in dust.
Okay, I can picture that.
Yeah.
But how does a dusty mirror relate to feeling lost or disconnected?
He suggests that when we're feeling that way, it's like our hearts have become clouded over, covered with the dust of our ego, our attachments, our fears, our negative thoughts and emotions. And just like a dusty mirror can't reflect light clearly.
Right.
A clouded heart can't fully receive that divine beauty and goodness, that naz.
So it's like we're blocking the flow with all that stuff that we're carrying around.
Exactly. And he says that the solution is to polish the mirror, to clear away the dust.
Okay, that makes sense, but how do we actually do that? Like, how do we polish the mirrors of our hearts? Is there like a special cloth? A cosmic Windex?
I love that. It's a great question. Yep. And Dr. Dinani recommends several practices. One is to simply spend time in nature.
Okay.
Being surrounded by the beauty of the natural world can help to calm our minds, soothe our hearts, and remind us of our connection to something larger than ourselves.
I can definitely relate to that. Whenever I'm feeling stressed or overwhelmed, being in nature is like hitting a reset button.
Exactly. And another practice that he recommends is meditation.
Okay.
Even taking a few minutes each day to sit quietly, focus on your breath, and observe your thoughts and emotions without judgment can make a huge difference.
So it's about creating that inner sanctuary.
Yes.
That quiet space within ourselves.
Exactly.
Where we can connect with peace and clarity.
Precisely. And Dr. Larijani adds that prayer can also be a very powerful tool.
Okay.
Approaching prayer with sincerity, with humility, with that deep yearning for connection can help to dissolve those barriers that we've built up between ourselves and that source of love and light.
Okay. Spending time in nature, meditation, prayer. What else?
He also emphasizes cultivating gratitude.
Well,
when we focus on what we're thankful for, even the smallest things, it shifts our perspective from one of lack and scarcity to one of abundance and appreciation.
Gratitude really does change how you experience the world.
It does.
It's like a muscle we can strengthen with practice.
Absolutely. And another powerful practice is acts of kindness.
Okay.
When we extend ourselves to others, offering our time, our energy, our resources to those in need, it softens our hearts and expands our capacity for love and compassion.
It's like kindness is contagious, right?
It is.
When we give to others, it creates a ripple effect that not only benefits the recipient, but also expands our own hearts and makes us more receptive to naz and forgiveness.
Yes. Forgiveness is so crucial when we hold on to resentment, anger, or bitterness. It's like we're allowing those negative emotions to cloud our vision,
like a
blocking the flow of not
cleansing agent.
Forgiveness is like a cleansing agent for the heart.
Yeah, it helps us to let go of those things.
Absolutely.
That are weighing us down and create space for love and compassion to flow in.
You're absolutely right. And it's not always easy.
No.
It's a practice that requires courage, humility, and a willingness to let go of our ego.
But it's not about condoning harmful behavior or denying our pain, right?
Yeah.
It's about choosing to release ourselves from that burden of resentment.
Exactly.
So that we can move forward with a lighter heart.
Saadi reminds us that true healing and transformation come from forgiveness, not from holding on to grudges. But there's one more practice that Dr. Dinani recommends that's essential for polishing the mirror of the heart.
Okay, I'm all ears.
He says it's vital to cultivate self-reflection.
Okay.
Taking the time to look inward, to examine our thoughts, our beliefs, and our behaviors can help us to identify those things that are blocking the flow of Nas.
Yeah, so it's about becoming more aware of our own patterns and habits.
Exactly.
And how we might be self-sabotaging or holding ourselves back from experiencing real connection and meaning.
Once we've identified those patterns, we can start to shift them.
Right.
Cultivating new habits and beliefs that are more aligned with our values and aspirations.
So self-reflection is like taking inventory of our inner landscape.
I love that.
You know, seeing what needs to be cleared away.
Right.
What needs to be nurtured, what needs to be brought into balance.
It's about becoming conscious architects of our inner world.
Yeah.
Creating the conditions that allow Nas to flow freely and abundantly.
But that's a process that requires constant effort, right? Yeah. It's not about achieving some perfect state, but continually striving to refine ourselves and align our lives with what's truly good and beautiful.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember that we don't have to do this alone.
Yeah, it's like that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone.
Exactly.
If you want to go far, go together.
Yes.
We need that support to keep us moving forward on the path. But what does that community look like in this context?
Saadi emphasizes the need to be around people who uplift and inspire us.
Right.
People who challenge us to become better versions of ourselves.
So it's not about isolating ourselves from the world, but choosing our companions wisely.
Yes.
Finding those who will walk alongside us on the journey of growth and transformation. And does that just mean surrounding yourself with people who are exactly like you?
No. In fact, Dr. Dinani points out that we often learn the most from those who hold different perspectives and have had different experiences.
So it's about embracing diversity.
Yes.
Finding those who can challenge our assumptions and help us see the world in new ways.
Precisely. And Dr. Larijani adds that a true community is about more than just sharing common interests or beliefs.
Right.
It's about this shared commitment to growth, to learning, to supporting each other on our individual journeys.
I love that. It's like a group of people walking alongside each other, each with their own unique destination, but all committed to helping each other along the way.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And it speaks to the role of mentorship. You know, by finding those wise elders or peers who can offer us guidance, share their experience, and help us navigate the inevitable challenges of life.
And Saadi himself embodied that right.
He certainly did.
He was a mentor to many, sharing his wisdom through his poetry and his teachings.
Yes, but he also recognized the importance of seeking out his own mentors.
Right.
Learning from those who had traveled the path before him.
So it's a reciprocal relationship.
Yes.
We can both be mentors and mentees, giving and receiving guidance and support.
Absolutely.
And it makes me think about how crucial language is for building those connections.
You're absolutely right. You're touching on something very important. That idea of language as a bridge between hearts and minds. When we engage in meaningful conversations, when we share our stories and we truly listen to others, we create those bonds of connection that sustain us on the journey.
It makes me realize that language is more than just a way to communicate information.
Right.
It's a tool for creating understanding, for healing, for transformation.
You're absolutely right. And when we use language intentionally, with kindness and compassion, with a sincere desire to understand and be understood, it can be incredibly powerful.
Okay, so we've talked about community and language. What other tools can help us to foster that connection to divine beauty and goodness?
Well, Dr. Dinani suggests that one of the most powerful ways is through the appreciation of beauty in all its forms.
That sounds intriguing. What does he mean by that?
He believes that beauty is a reflection of the divine, a manifestation of Nas in the world around us.
Okay.
And he says that when we take the time to truly appreciate it, whether in nature, art, music, or even the simplest things, we're opening ourselves up to that connection with something much larger than ourselves.
So it's not just about passively observing beauty.
Right.
It's about actively engaging with it.
Exactly.
Letting it move us, letting it inspire us.
Exactly.
Letting it awaken something within us.
And Dr. Larijani adds that appreciating beauty doesn't have to be limited to what we traditionally think of as beautiful.
Oh, interesting.
You know, it's about cultivating the sense of wonder and appreciation for all of creation.
Right.
Even the things that may seem mundane or imperfect at first glance.
Yeah, it's about shifting our perspective, looking for that hidden beauty that's all around us.
You got it. And he says that that shift can have a profound impact on how we experience the world.
Yeah.
helping us to move from a place of cynicism and judgment to a place of gratitude and awe.
It makes me think about those moments when I've been completely captivated, by a sunset, a piece of music, a work of art. Those times when, like, everything fades away and I just feel completely connected and alive.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Exactly. Those moments, however fleeting they may be, offer us a taste of that connection to that divine eyes, that sense of wholeness and beauty that we're all longing for.
It sounds like beauty can be a portal to something much bigger than ourselves.
Absolutely.
A way to access what truly nourishes our souls.
Beautifully said. And, Saadi's poetry is full of these portals, these invitations to step into that realm of beauty and connect with what's true and good.
This makes me think about how you described Saadi's work earlier as like a map to a hidden treasure.
Yeah.
And it's not just about finding the treasure.
Right.
It's about the journey itself, the process of discovery and transformation.
I love how you're connecting these ideas. It's like Saadi is giving us a compass and a set of instructions, but he's also encouraging us to get lost, to explore, to find our own unique path through the wilderness.
And that's what makes his work so enduring. It's not this rigid dogma. It's a living invitation to embark on this journey of self-discovery.
Absolutely.
Guided by beauty, wisdom, and
that deep primal longing for connection. And you've captured it beautifully. It's not about reaching some predefined destination.
Yeah.
It's about embracing the journey, this continual unfolding of our understanding and this deepening of our connection to that source of Naz.
We've covered so much ground today. From the interplay of Naz and Nais to the role of balance of language, of community, of beauty, and even free will. What other wisdom can we glean from our expert commentators?
Well, Dr. Larijani raises this really fascinating point about true wealth and poverty. He suggests that when we talk about Nais, that sense of need, we're not just talking about material poverty.
Oh, interesting.
There's this spiritual poverty that we can experience even when all of our material needs are met.
What exactly does he mean by spiritual poverty?
He suggests that true wealth isn't measured by money or possessions, but by how connected we are to that source of Naz, to that divine beauty and goodness. And he says that true poverty is the state of feeling disconnected from that source.
Oh, wow.
Of feeling empty and unfulfilled, even when surrounded by abundance.
So you can be surrounded by material wealth, but still feel impoverished if you're not aligned with what truly nourishes your soul.
Exactly. And that's a message that resonates so strongly in our modern world, right? Where we're constantly bombarded with messages that tell us that happiness comes from acquiring more things.
It's a reminder that true wealth lies in our connection to something greater than ourselves.
Yes.
Something that transcends those
fleeting material things.
Fleeting material things.
Yes. It's like you can chase all the money and possessions in the world, but if you're not cultivating that inner connection, you'll always feel like something is missing.
And that's where Saadi's poetry shines.
Yes.
He offers a path back to that source of true wealth.
Exactly.
A way to reconnect with what truly nourishes the soul.
This is fascinating. So if true wealth is about our connection to Naz, how do we cultivate that connection? How do we move from a state of spiritual poverty to one of abundance?
Well, Dr. Dinani suggests that it begins by recognizing our need, our own niyaz. It's about acknowledging that we're not self-sufficient, that we depend on something greater than ourselves for true fulfillment.
So instead of pretending that we have it all figured out, we need to embrace our vulnerability.
Precisely.
And our humanness.
That humility, that willingness to admit that we need something more is the first step. It's like creating this empty space within ourselves. A vessel that can then be filled with divine beauty and goodness.
So we acknowledge our need, we create that space. What's next?
Dr. Larijani emphasizes that we need to cultivate those qualities
that make us receptive to Naz.
Okay.
He talks about purifying our hearts and developing virtues like kindness, compassion, gratitude, generosity.
So it's not just about asking for what we want, but about becoming the kind of people who are worthy of receiving it.
You got it. It's about aligning our actions with our values.
Right.
And striving to live in a way that reflects that beauty and goodness that we're seeking.
And that's where Saadi's teachings come in, right? He's offering us these stories, these examples, these guidance on how to actually live these virtues, how to become more loving, more compassionate, more generous people.
And he also reminds us that it's an ongoing journey.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about achieving some kind of perfect state.
Right.
But it's about constantly striving to become the best versions of ourselves.
So it's not about reaching the finish line.
Right.
But enjoying the process of growth and transformation.
Precisely. And that process itself is part of the beauty of life.
This makes me think about how often we get caught up in chasing those external goals. You know, achievements, possessions, status.
Yes.
And we lose sight of that inner transformation.
Right.
That cultivation of our hearts and minds.
That's exactly the trap that Saadi's warning us about. He's saying that true happiness doesn't come from acquiring more. Right. It comes from cultivating those inner qualities that connect us to Naz.
So it's about shifting our focus from external validation to internal transformation.
Beautifully said. And a message that's so incredibly relevant today. Saadi's reminding us that true wealth lies within and that the journey of self-discovery is the most rewarding adventure of all. But how do we put all of this into practice, you know?
Yeah.
How do we move beyond simply understanding these concepts?
Right, because it's one thing to intellectually grasp the ideas.
Yes.
But it's another to actually embody them in our daily lives.
You're absolutely right. And Dr. Dinani emphasizes the importance of practice. It's not enough to just read Saadi's poetry and understand his ideas intellectually.
Right.
We need to live them, breathe them, and embody them in our actions.
So it's not just about theoretical knowledge.
Yeah.
It's about applying that knowledge in our everyday lives.
Exactly. You know, it means making conscious choices moment by moment to align our actions with our values, choosing kindness over judgment, generosity over selfishness, gratitude over complaint.
Yeah, it's about those small steps, those shifts in behavior.
Yes.
That gradually lead to a larger transformation.
You're getting it. And Dr. Larijani adds that these small acts, when done consistently and with intention, have a ripple effect.
Okay.
They not only transform us individually, but they also help to create a more beautiful and harmonious world.
Wow, that's inspiring.
It is.
It reminds us that we're all interconnected.
Yeah.
And that even our smallest actions can make a difference.
That's the power of aligning ourselves with Naz. We become part of something bigger, contributing to a more loving, compassionate, and just world.
You know, it gives me a sense of hope and purpose, knowing that even my small choices can ripple outwards and create that positive change. But what about those times when we're feeling lost or disconnected or stuck? You know, what if we're struggling to connect with that Naz?
That's a question that many of us grapple with, right? And Dr. Larijani offers a really helpful perspective here. He emphasizes that connecting with Naz isn't about forcefully grasping it.
Okay.
It's about creating the conditions within ourselves to become receptive to it.
So it's more about cultivating that inner space, that fertile ground where Naz can naturally flow in.
He uses this beautiful metaphor to explain this. He says, imagine a garden filled with the most exquisite flowers, each one radiant with Naz. But if the soil is hard and dry, no matter how hard those flowers try to share their beauty, their roots won't be able to penetrate the ground.
So our hearts, when they're filled with, you know, all of those negative emotions that we talked about, fear, resentment, judgment, it's like they become that hard, dry ground.
You're exactly right. So the work of connecting with Naz isn't about chasing after it or trying to force it. It's about softening the soil of our hearts, making ourselves receptive to that beauty and goodness.
That makes a lot of sense. And it ties back to all of those practices that we were discussing. Meditation, prayer, gratitude, kindness, forgiveness. Those are the tools that help to soften that ground. To make us more receptive to the Naz that's always present.
You've hit on a crucial point. And Dr. Dinani adds that this receptivity is also closely linked to our intention. You know, he suggests that we need to approach these practices with sincerity, with that genuine yearning for connection, with a willingness to let go of our ego and our preconceived notions.
So it's not just about going through the motions. It's about approaching these practices with an open heart. A receptive mind.
Exactly. And he even goes as far as to say that the very act of seeking Naz, of desiring that connection, is itself a manifestation of Nayas. Which in turn makes us more receptive to the divine. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
That's fascinating. So it's like the very act of seeking deepens our connection. So it's not about achieving some perfect state of enlightenment, but about continually cultivating that longing, that yearning, which in turn makes us more open to experiencing the beauty and goodness that's all around us.
You captured it beautifully. And Dr. Larijani reminds us that this journey of cultivating receptivity to Nas is a lifelong process, not a destination.
Right.
There will be times when we feel deeply connected, and there will be times when we feel lost and disconnected. The key is to keep practicing, to softening the soil of our hearts, and keep trusting that the Nas is always there waiting to be received.
It reminds me of something you said earlier about the importance of community.
Yep.
It sounds like having that support system can be really helpful, especially during those times when we're feeling lost or discouraged.
Dr. Dinani emphasizes that we don't have to walk this path alone.
Right.
He believes that surrounding ourselves with people who uplift us, who inspire us, who challenge us to grow, can make all the difference.
So it's not about isolating ourselves from the world.
No.
It's about choosing our companions wisely.
Yes.
Seeking out those who will walk alongside us on this journey of growth and transformation.
And he points out that it doesn't mean surrounding ourselves only with people who are exactly like us.
Right.
We often learn the most from those who hold different perspectives, different experiences, different ways of being in the world.
Right. So it's about embracing diversity.
Yes.
Seeking out those who can challenge our assumptions and help us see the world.
Exactly. And Dr. Larijani adds that a true community is about more than just sharing common interests or beliefs.
Right.
It's about a shared commitment to growth, to learning, to supporting each other on those individual journeys.
It's like we're all walking alongside each other on these parallel paths.
Yeah.
Each with our own unique destination.
Yeah.
But all committed to helping each other along the way. It's such a beautiful image.
It is.
It makes me think about the importance of mentorship.
Absolutely. Finding those wise elders or peers
Yeah.
who can guide us, share their experience, and help us navigate the challenges of life.
And Saadi himself embodied that beautifully, right?
He did.
He was a mentor to many, sharing his wisdom through his poetry and his teachings.
He was. But he also recognized the importance of seeking out mentors for himself, of learning from those who had walked the path before him.
So there's a reciprocal relationship.
Yes.
We can both be mentors and mentees.
Absolutely.
Both giving and receiving guidance and support.
Yeah.
And that brings us back to the importance of language, doesn't it?
It does.
It's through language that we connect, that we share our experiences.
Yeah. Yes.
That we offer that guidance and support.
You're making such a crucial connection here. Dr. Larijani highlights how language itself is more than just a means of communication.
Right.
It shapes our very reality.
So it's not just about what we say,
Right.
but how we say it.
Right.
The energy and the intention behind our words matters.
Exactly. He believes that when we speak from a place of love, of kindness, of compassion, our words have the power to heal, to uplift, to inspire.
Right.
But when we speak from fear, from anger, from judgment, our words can cause harm, division, and suffering.
This makes me think about how often we use words so carelessly.
Yes.
Without really considering their impact. Like we might make offhand comments or gossip or complain, not realizing the negativity that we're putting out into the world.
And that's why Saadi emphasizes silence. He says that sometimes the most powerful communication is saying nothing at all.
And it's true.
It creates space for reflection, for contemplation, for deep listening to our own inner voice and the voices of those around us.
So it's not about suppressing our voices.
Right.
But it's about choosing our words wisely.
Yes.
And recognizing the power of silence to create healing and connection.
Exactly. And Dr. Dinani adds that the practice of silence can also help us to cultivate that inner stillness, that receptivity to Nas that we were discussing. When we quiet the mental chatter.
Yeah.
We create space for those whispers of wisdom and those subtle nudges of intuition to emerge.
Silence is fertile ground where those seeds of Nas can take root and blossom.
That's beautiful.
What a beautiful image.
It is. It reminds us that these profound insights often come not from seeking answers outside of ourselves, but from cultivating that inner stillness.
Yeah.
We connect with our own innate wisdom.
We've talked about, choosing our words carefully, the power of silence, and how language shapes our reality. What else can we do to use language to foster connection and understanding and transformation?
Dr. Larijani emphasizes the importance of listening deeply to others.
Okay.
He says that true communication is not just about expressing ourselves.
Right.
It's about genuinely hearing and understanding the perspectives of those around us.
Moving beyond our ego and that need to be right.
Exactly.
Or heard.
Yeah.
And creating that space for others to share their experiences and insights.
He believes that deep listening requires empathy, compassion, and willingness to set aside our judgments and assumptions.
So it's not just about passively hearing words, but actively trying to understand the feelings, the needs, the motivations behind those words.
You got it. And Dr. Dinani adds that this deep listening can be transformative for both the listener and the speaker. You know, it creates a sense of safety, of connection, and it opens up these possibilities for understanding and growth.
It makes me think about how often we're so focused on just getting our own point across that we don't truly listen to what the other person is saying.
We miss an opportunity for connection and learning.
Yeah.
You know, when we truly listen, we open ourselves up to new perspectives, new ideas, new ways of seeing the world.
So deep listening is about more than just being polite.
Right.
It's about expanding our understanding and deepening our connection with others.
Really. And it's a crucial skill, especially in our increasingly polarized world.
Yes.
You know, Saadi's teachings remind us that true communication builds bridges, not walls.
Yes.
And it starts with this willingness to listen deeply and empathetically, even to those who hold different views.
So how do we practice deep listening? What are some tangible steps we can take to become better listeners?
Well, Dr. Dinani suggests starting with something as simple as paying attention to our body language.
Okay.
You know, when we're listening to someone, are we fully present? Are we facing them, making eye contact? Or are we distracted? Are we looking at our phones? Are we fidgeting? Are we thinking about what we're going to say next?
Right. So it's about being fully present in the moment, both physically and mentally.
Exactly. It's about sending that message to the other person.
Yeah.
I see you. I hear you. I value what you have to say.
Right.
And it's not just about our physical presence. It's about quieting that internal chatter in our minds.
Yeah.
You know, letting go of our judgments and preconceived notions and truly opening ourselves up to what the other person is sharing.
Sounds like a practice in mindfulness, really. Just bringing our full attention to the present moment and to the person we're with.
You've got it. And Dr. Larijani adds that another important aspect of deep listening is reflecting back what we've heard. So, you know, summarizing or paraphrasing what the other person has said to make sure that we've understood them correctly.
It's not just about passively absorbing information. It's about actively engaging with what's being said, you know, making sure that we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I'm hearing you say. Is that right?
Exactly. And it's also about acknowledging the other person's feelings.
Right.
Even if we don't necessarily agree with their perspective.
Yeah.
You know, we can say something like, I hear that you're feeling frustrated, or I can see that this is really important to you.
So it's about validating their experience, letting them know that their feelings matter, even if we see things differently.
You're getting it. And Dr. Dinani points out that this validation doesn't mean that we have to agree with the other person, or that we condone their behavior.
Yeah.
It's simply about acknowledging their perspective and creating that space for them to feel heard.
It's about creating that safe space for open and honest communication, even when it's difficult or challenging.
Exactly. And that kind of deep listening can be transformative, both for the listener and the speaker. It can foster understanding, empathy, and connection, even across those differences in opinion or experience.
And it sounds like that kind of listening can be especially helpful when we're trying to connect with that Naz.
Yes.
If we're constantly, you know, chattering away in our own heads, judging ourselves and others, it's going to be difficult to create that space for that beauty and goodness to flow in.
Dr. Larijani suggests that deep listening can actually be a form of prayer.
Oh, wow.
A way of opening ourselves up to that divine wisdom that speaks through the voices of others.
So it's not just about listening to the words that are being spoken.
Right.
But it's about listening for that deeper message.
Yes.
That whisper of truth.
Yes.
That might be trying to reach us.
Beautifully said. And, you know, when we cultivate that kind of listening, we become more attuned to the Naz that's all around us. Not just in the words of others, but in the sounds of nature. It's the beauty of art, the simple moments of everyday life.
You know, it's making me think about how often we miss those whispers, those subtle nudges.
Yes.
Because we're so caught up in our own
thoughts and distractions.
We're not really listening.
Yeah.
We're not truly present to what's happening around us.
That's so true. And Dr. Dinani reminds us that, you know, the practice of deep listening requires intentionality and effort. It's not something that happens automatically, especially in our busy, noisy world.
No.
We have to make that conscious choice.
Right.
To put down our phones, turn off the TV, and truly tune in to the present moment.
It's like we have to create that space for silence, for stillness, for that receptivity to Nas. And that's not always easy.
Absolutely. But the rewards are well worth the effort.
Right.
When we cultivate deep listening, we open ourselves up to a world of beauty, of wisdom, of connection that we might otherwise miss.
Yeah. So as we move forward from this conversation, let's all make a commitment to practice deep listening. Not just to the voices of others, but also to those whispers of the divine that are speaking to us through all things.
That's a beautiful sentiment. And it brings to mind another really important point that Dr. Larijani raises about the nature of Nas and Niyaz.
Okay.
He emphasizes that they're not static, but rather dynamic forces that are constantly interacting and evolving within us.
What does he mean by that?
Well, he suggests that our understanding of Nas and Niyaz will deepen and change as we grow and evolve on our own spiritual journeys.
Okay.
What might have felt like a profound expression of Nas at one point in our lives might later feel like just a mere glimmer compared to the deeper, more expansive experiences that open up to us as we continue to cultivate our receptivity.
So it's not about achieving some fixed level of understanding, but it's about continually deepening our connection to Nas as we grow and evolve.
And Dr. Dinani adds that our niyaz, our longing, will also change and evolve as we move through life.
It makes sense.
You know, what we yearn for in our youth might be very different from what we crave in our later years.
Right. Our experiences shape our desires.
Exactly.
And those desires, in turn, shape our understanding of Nas.
Exactly. And that's why it's important to stay curious, to keep exploring, to keep asking those questions, and to keep listening for the answers that will unfold in our own time.
It's like we're peeling back the layers of an onion, constantly uncovering new depths and dimensions of Nas and Niyaz as we go deeper.
That's a wonderful way to put it. And it reminds us that the journey itself, that continual process of discovery and unfolding, is part of the beauty and the magic of connecting with that divine source.
It makes me think about how Saadi uses symbolism and metaphor in his poetry.
Yes.
It's like he's creating these layers of meaning, these portals to deeper understanding that invite us to keep exploring and discovering new insights.
You're right. You know, Saadi doesn't just spell everything out for us.
No.
He invites us to participate in the process of meaning making.
Right.
You know, he gives us these clues and these images and these stories that spark our imaginations and invite us to connect with those deeper truths in our own unique ways.
So it's not just about passively reading his words.
Right.
It's about actively engaging with them, wrestling with them, and allowing them to awaken something within us.
You've captured it beautifully. And I think that's one of the reasons why Saadi's poetry has resonated with people for centuries.
Yeah.
It's not a rigid dogma. It's not a set of rules to follow.
Right.
It's an invitation to embark on a personal journey of discovery, guided by beauty, wisdom, and that deep primal longing for connection.
It makes me want to go back and reread all of Saadi's work with fresh eyes, paying attention to those layers of meaning, those symbols and metaphors that are pointing to something deeper.
That's a wonderful idea, and I encourage everyone listening to do the same. Approach Saadi's poetry not just with your mind, but with your heart, with your soul, with that niyaz that yearns to connect with something greater.
And to remember that those deeper truths, that connection to Nas, it's not something to be found outside of ourselves. No. It's something to be cultivated within.
Exactly. It's not about achieving some perfect state of enlightenment, but about continually refining our hearts, softening the soil of our souls, and creating that space for beauty and goodness and truth to flow through us. This
has been such a rich and illuminating conversation. We've explored so many facets of Nas and Niyaz, and I feel like I have a completely new understanding of Saadi's poetry and its relevance to my own life.
I agree. It's a topic we could spend hours on, and I'm sure we'll revisit it again in future deep dives as we go through these 50 audio files.
Yeah, definitely. But before we wrap up, let's bring it back to Saadi's poetry. What are some concrete examples of how he weaves this dance of need and fulfillment into his work?
One that comes to mind is Saadi's use of the moth drawn to a flame.
Oh, yes. The moth and the flame. That's such a powerful image. How does that relate to Nas and Niyaz?
Well, think about the moth. It's irresistibly drawn to the light, to the warmth and the beauty of the flame, even though it knows that it might get burned.
So the moth's attraction to the flame is like Naya's, this unstoppable force that compels it towards that source of light, even if it means risking danger.
Exactly. And the flame itself, with its brilliance and intensity, represents Naz. It's this captivating, irresistible beauty that just draws the moth in, even though it might lead to its destruction.
That's intense. It's like Saadi saying, our longing for the divine, for beauty, for truth can be so powerful that we're willing to risk everything for it.
And in some poems, Saadi even suggests that this willingness to surrender, to risk everything, is part of what makes the journey meaningful.
So it's not about playing it safe or staying in our comfort zones, but about embracing the unknown and diving into what calls to us, even if it's a little scary.
Exactly. It's an invitation to step outside of those comfort zones, to embrace that mystery, and to trust that even if we get a little burned along the way, the journey is worth it.
It makes me think about those times in my life when I took big risks, when I followed my heart, even when it felt scary or uncertain.
And those experiences, even if they didn't always turn out how we expected, taught us valuable lessons, helped us to grow, and brought us closer to what matters.
Don't be afraid to get a little singed. The journey is just as important as the destination.
I love how you put that. It's about embracing the whole experience, the highs and the lows, and trusting that it's all part of this larger unfolding.
This is making me want to reread all of Saadi with this new lens. I'm seeing these themes of Naz, and balance everywhere.
And that's the beauty of it. Once you start looking for these patterns, you'll find them woven throughout his work. It's like a secret code to unlock these hidden depths.
That's what makes studying Saadi so rewarding. It's not about passively absorbing information. It's about actively engaging with his ideas, wrestling with them, and letting them transform us.
Exactly. It's about each of us embarking on our own journey of discovery, guided by his wisdom and inspiration.
So we've covered a lot. Naz and Niyaz, balance, language, community, beauty. What other wisdom can we glean from our experts?
Dr. Dinani raises a point about Naz, Niyaz, and free will.
Oh, free will. How does that fit into all of this?
He suggests that our Niyaz, our longing for connection with that divine Naz, is a gift, a spark of the divine within us that draws us toward what is good and beautiful.
Niyaz is like a homing beacon guiding us back to our source.
Exactly. And he says our free will is how we respond to that longing. We can follow the pull of Niyaz towards that divine Naz or resist it, turning away from what would nourish our souls.
We're at a crossroads. We can walk toward the light or wander into darkness.
And he emphasizes that this choice isn't a one-time thing. It's a choice we make moment to moment in every thought, every word, every action.
So constantly navigating between our will and the pull of Niyaz, making choices that either align us with divine Niyaz or lead us astray.
You got it. And he says that the more we choose to align ourselves with what's good and beautiful, the stronger that connection becomes, the brighter that spark of Niyaz grows within us.
It's like a positive feedback loop. We feed that longing with what nourishes us, and it becomes stronger, making it easier to resist temptations leading us away from our true path.
Exactly, and that's an empowering message. We have the power to shape our destiny, to choose the direction of our lives, and to cultivate that connection with Naz that brings true fulfillment.
This episode has been amazing. We've explored Naz and Niyaz, balance, language, community, beauty, and free will, all in our journey toward meaning and connection. What are some key takeaways we can carry with us from today's conversation?
One of the most important is that our longing for connection, for fulfillment, for something more, isn't a weakness, it's a strength. That spark of the divine within us, guiding us back to our source.
We shouldn't try to suppress or deny that longing. We should embrace it, nurture it, and let it guide us toward what nourishes our souls.
Exactly. Another key takeaway is that this journey isn't a solitary one. We need the support of others, a community to inspire and challenge us and keep us moving forward.
Reaching out, building bridges, recognizing that we're all in this together.
And remember, beauty isn't just something to admire from afar. It's a portal to something deeper, a way to connect with divine Naz present in everything.
So let's cultivate a sense of wonder and appreciation for the beauty around us, in nature, art, music, even in simple everyday moments.
And finally, the most important takeaway. We have the power to choose the direction of our lives. We can choose to align with what is good, beautiful, and true, or turn away. That choice is ours, moment by moment.
Let's make those choices consciously, with intention, and with awareness of the impact our words, actions, and even thoughts have on ourselves and the world around us.
And remember, The journey itself, that continual unfolding of understanding and connection to something bigger, is part of the beauty of being alive.
This has been an amazing deep dive into Saadi, and I feel like I have a whole new understanding of his work and how it applies to my own life.
I'm so glad. Saadi's wisdom is timeless and has so much to offer us, even centuries later.
I completely agree. I hope everyone listening will pick up some Saadi or revisit his work with fresh eyes. You might be surprised by what you find.
And it's not just about the words on the page. It's about letting those words touch your heart, spark something within you, and guide you on your own journey of self-discovery.
Beautifully said. Until next time, dear listeners, may your hearts be filled with Naz and your steps guided by Nayaz. Thanks for joining us on Wisdom Unveiled.